Um, I am gonna call to order the Ways and Means Committee meeting for January 20th, 2026. It is currently 6:01 PM. I am gonna do a roll call numbers for a full committee, yeah. Um, we have Counselor Bottomley,
Here?
Counselor Sivenson Al,
Here.
Counselor Williams,
Here.
Counselor Webb,
Here.
and Counselor Bullock, and I am here as well. We also have the mayor present online. We have Carol Collins. And is there someone else from a city department present as well? Yeah, we have finance director, Nimbico, and we have fire chief. I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Peter.
Peter MacGyver. I do know your name. Okay. Okay. We have no approval of minutes. We have, if anybody online would like to do public comment, you can put your name and address in the chat box. Please don't put anything else in the chat box. But if you put your name and address in there, you will have time to speak. And for folks that just joined, if you want to do public comment, you can put your name in the chat box now. There's nobody in there now.
Nobody.
I'm gonna just give another 30 seconds in case the people that are joining now are here for public comment, because we. Okay, if anyone wants to do public comment, you can put your name in the chat box. We'll take you out of order.
Wait, sorry. One more person who just entered.
Okay. We were just waiting for folks to join because we saw some new folks were coming in. If you want to give public comment, you can put your name and address in the chat box, and the public comment time is now. So if the folks who just joined want to give public comment, now is the time to put your name in the chat. Okay. Great. We have no motions, and we do have many discussions tonight. So we just for new folks on the committee, that means we don't have to vote on anything tonight. So we're here to just gather information and ask questions and be able to report back to the full council tomorrow night if we need to on anything. John is gonna guide us through some of this so that we have some continuity here. I did watch the last couple meetings to get caught up, but this is where we are. So it's great that we have you on the committee with us still.
Thanks.
Yeah. So we're gonna go first into review of fiscal year 2025 operating budget revenue and expenses. It starts on page 3, including schools, which is on page 24. And we've invited Mayor Disorder, Finance Director Nimbico, to speak on that. I'm just gonna get. So we'll start. Mayor, do you have like a context opening statement you want to give, or do you want us to ask questions first and then you dive in? Oh, is. Do you have us muted, Ginny? She can hear us for some reason.
Should I?
Ginny, can you hear us?
Jenny.
Can anyone hear us?
Hmm.
Oh, great.
The sound is on.
I can hear you.
You can hear us. Okay. Carol, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay,
Hello.
great. Ginny, can you hear us? Is she in her office?
She's
Oh,
waiting.
she can.
I don't think she's in her office, so.
Okay. She can only hear us minimally.
They're trying to.
What was that? Ginny, do you hear us better now?
It's very quiet.
This one's unmuted. That one's blue, not red. Yeah, okay. Are you in your office, Ginny?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, what I'm asking is if you want to give us context, we're starting on the review of schools, page 24. So I didn't know if you wanted to give us context or do you want us to ask questions first? Oh, she can't hear. It's okay. Do you want to start? Yeah, you're welcome to come join us.
We can branch off from there.
I hear you.
Yeah, I wonder if it might be better to start with like, put it on here, but like revenues or.
Page 3.
Okay, so we're gonna look at the FY 25 budget here. And it has been finished for quite a while, but in our midst of trying to close everything down, all the people being new in all the departments, especially treasurers, accounting, as well as assessors, and then adding this on top of their day job, we've been kind of struggling a little bit, but we're getting there. So as we finished up FY 25, our revenues were in line with what we expected. And our expenses were in line with what we expected. Normally, what we do is we do a lot of transfers in July and August in order to clear up any of those deficits. Unfortunately, we weren't able to do that this year. And so once we get past the August 1st deadline, we have to bring it to you in order to do those transfers. And that's why you see so many deficits in certain line items. But when you look at the aggregate, we're about $1 million to the good, which is less than what we normally have. But it is still positive, which is good. And there are certain areas where we were definitely had expenses that were a little above what we had thought. And the fire department's here. I know Carol's here to talk about some of their areas, and I'll be here to talk about some of those other areas where we want to start. So, if we want to start out with questions and kind of move forward, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I was thinking it might be good to go off the negative balances.
Okay.
Just because really when we talk about budget review, I think normally we tend to do that once a year, which is like when we talk to every department head and craft the budget, and we usually talk about last year's budget. Because as you saw, a 90-page munis report on the budget is pretty extensive. So that usually, when we're putting next year's budget together, that's going to take like a whole month. The mayor and the department heads put it together, and then we ask questions on it. And oftentimes that's really like a review. We asked about what happened last year and the planning for the next year. So I thought, I don't remember getting this in the past, but this summary of all accounts and negative balances I found really useful. It just made it a quicker way to kind of target on this document. The things that are in parentheses are the negative balances, and some of them are very small, so I don't think you need to go through maybe every last one.
Yeah.
But hitting some of kind of the bigger ones, just so that we get some understanding of that, I thought might be a helpful place.
Yeah, I can start with the other accounts and, police, fire, and as well as electricity and utilities with Carol. So whichever one you want to start with.
You want to do some of these, I think will be pretty easy.
Okay.
And I can talk about the ones that there was accounting.
Yes.
42,000, and I was just curious what that expense overage.
Yeah, the accounting. So when we look at these are just aggregates of the salaries and expenses, as you know, and as we get into more detail, for the accounting department, the contracted services was in the negative by about $9,500. As you know, there was a bunch of vacancies in there, and so they brought in some consultants in order to try to help out and cover those gaps. So that's where that $9,500 deficit comes in. And then the other piece, which is strange, I don't know why, I didn't build this budget, so that's, it was the software assessment was budgeted for 120,000, but actually cost 150,000. So that's where 30,000 comes from. And the only thing I could say about that, it was misbudgeted in FY25. That's the only rational explanation for that.
Where is that on here?
On the summary of negative balances on the right accounting,
It's page 1,
Yeah.
about halfway down,
Counting. Okay.
accounting department.
where it says 42,237.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was kind of gonna go down this list. At least with the ones that I thought, probably not every one, but. That works for me for,
I think, yeah, let's run down the list. And I think this is good for folks that maybe don't do budgets all day. If it's in parentheses, that's an overage. If it's in the positive, it's not.
because that's very helpful.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of these have those type of,
Yeah, and I remember from 2024 that there was the software upgrade.
so the next one is.
Assessors.
Yeah,
Yeah. The assessors, there was a large vacation, there was a large vacation buyback for one of the employees, so that put it in the negative by about, not a large one, but by about $3,000 for that. And then the property assessments, they contracted with RRG. That went over by about $27,000. They're contracting with RRG.
And
They needed to contract because they didn't have staff to take care of it.
Yes.
and is it less contracting now? I think,
It-
go back, that was a lot.
yeah, because it's like, it's not every single year. And there was something about the contracting out, right? That it was like, it was worth it financially for us. Like it's the capacity of the staff versus the amount of,
Income we got from it. Okay.
right,
Yeah.
the amount they could actually assess in a year.
Because I remember the goal originally, and I forget which year this is now, but years ago, we were hoping to get off that model and have more employees of the city doing the work. We thought that might be a better use of funds, but I think we've been going that way, but
We're moving towards that way. We have a new assessor as of December. So we had a new one left and another new one coming through. So there's been a lot of turnover in that office, as well as both the other positions in that office. We had turnover with that. So they're learning. We have Evan as well as Christina, who are doing a very good job. Evan comes to us actually from the federal government. He was let go during that whole issue with the federal government.
Right.
And he is extremely tech savvy. So he's beginning to automate a lot of those processes. So in the future, we don't see as much reliance on kind of an RRG consultant when he can do a lot of that for us.
that's great.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
All right, we have treasurer department, 6,500.
Oh, treasure. I'll have to get the computer out for that. Hold on a second. Thought you were going to ask about legal.
Legal's next, don't worry.
Okay. Just give me a minute to.
That's okay, yeah, no rush.
Also, while we're doing this, I think it's good to say that there are no stupid questions in here. Like, there's so many things, like if you don't know what an account is, an enterprise account, a revolving account, please ask Stephen because
Yeah.
it's really complicated. There's just so, or acronyms. There's just a lot.
Do you have a quick guide?
Not really. But I can answer questions the best of my ability.
What salaries? What, like, why? What is that? It
That's
can't be,
just the salary line, so like the total salaries for each department. But then,
it's low.
So this was just,
I think
this would have been
more
just the amount
salaries.
they went over.
Okay,
So like,
Okay.
yes, so
Got
in
it.
other words, it's weird the way this is listed,
Right.
but on this document, it's just list, the parentheses are
for
over.
the over,
The
yeah.
ones that aren't parentheses are above.
And that's like, we have that balance
Yep.
like we have,
on the
That's-
left side.
that's
So like for city council, we have 9,000 whatever in the bank.
Oops.
for city council on
On
the,
the left side.
left side.
Right,
For city council, we're over 5,381.
Right.
which is reflected on the right side, but then what is the 9,000 number?
Oh, that's, oh, so
$9,000.
the way I
Oh.
read that, we had 9,000 left.
Oh, that's our legal budget, I believe.
Oh, yeah, yep.
We have a $10,000 legal budget in our, I think those are the only two salary lines for city council. It's
So
like
city
our
council.
salaries and then legal budget.
Okay.
Okay,
And I
But why
believe,
are our salaries over?
I believe that was for Tammy, I think.
Oh, okay. Right, because
Mhm.
she's technically under us,
Us,
or
yeah.
not under, she's technically an employee of the city council.
Counselor, you have somebody in the
Oh, Ginny's in the legal.
She's trying to re-enter.
Okay. So we have. The next question was treasurers.
Treasurer,
and they-
65.
Yeah, they look to be under by 65. So again, turnover. So they actually saved some money in the treasurer's department because a lot of that fell under the accounting department, all that transition. And some strange things happening here. Meetings and seminars were over by about $700. Bank services were over by about 200. And then office equipment and furnishings, overtime, and paper and stationery did not receive a budget for a total of $8,400. And there were zero budgets on that one.
Okay.
And then printing went over by about $4,000.
And the next one is legal.
Legal, yeah.
Here's one.
Legal, when I looked at all their expenses, there were a couple of cases that came up. 1, 2, 3, 4 cases. I'm sorry. 8 cases for a total of 5, 6, 7, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, about $20,000 right there. So those were individual cases that they worked on throughout the course of the year. Then generalized legal fees, mayor's department legal fees, as well as some other kind of miscellaneous legal fees in there. Then I think a lot of legal fees were charged to this line. However, they belong to a couple other departments, specifically the health department. They had an $8,000 budget with no expenses to it. And then inspections had a $3,000 budget with no expenses to it. So that's $11,000 right there. That would then go, I guess the charges weren't made or the cross charges weren't made on
Well, and I
those.
know we've benefited too from the city council having city legal services too.
Can you remind me, do you have there what the legal line is for the city just in general, like what the
Yep.
total allocation is?
150. for that line item.
Okay. At what point do cities hire a city solicitor versus, like retain legal in this way that we do?
Well, I would say depending on the amount of activity, 150, and then you bring in someone probably at 180, 190
Right.
for a solicitor. And then add on top of that, health insurance was another 30,000. So,
Well, yeah,
when you
we're
get
on
to
the
the
line depending on. the year.
225 plus probably,
Okay. Is there any questions about legal before we go on to the next one? Okay. Human resources. That one looks like it's a salary overage.
Yes, that is a salary overage by $8,400. So the budget was 254 and 262,000 was spent.
Okay, city council, we believe that that's Tammy, is that correct?
I believe so. Increase in her salary.
City council here.
I don't want to not do that one because people are going to be like, you didn't ask
Right.
about the city
We don't have
council
too
budget.
Her salary was increased.
Yep.
Okay.
But that's all.
7,700.
Great.
And there was a slight overage of $160 for overtime.
Okay. And let's see where else. We have licensing departments.
So
Same thing. That was due to a salary increase.
Okay.
Yep. 8729 salary increase. That's the only overage in that department.
And that's one salary increase? Or multiple? You're muted, Jenny.
Good point. Good point. I think that was 2.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
The big one. Energy.
This is energy department, which I know we have Carol here for. Carol, are you with us still, or did you get bored?
Oh no, this is riveting.
Thank you. Yeah. I tried to have a good show for you all, so.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome to give us some context here. So for folks who aren't looking at the spreadsheet, we have a $211,000 overage in expenses for the energy department.
Correct. So I did write up a narrative explaining the large issues behind those increases. I don't know if you want me to go through that or if you have questions. Should I just review it?
Yeah, if you want to give us the highlights, that would be great.
Okay. So I think this might not be your traditional, I didn't go like number by number. I went more in terms of like the trends and the issues that I'm highlighting, partially because some of them are ongoing and it's really, really challenging. So what kind of precipitated some of this is that we had a couple of issues with a couple of buildings. However, we weren't getting billed correctly by Eversource for months and months on end. And it was right at the same time, it coincided with their unveiling a new billing system that has just been problematic from the outset, continues to be so. And in the case of, unfortunately, two of the accounts with the biggest billing issues happen to have actual things going on that needed to be identified. But because of this delay in knowing what was going on with the bills, it allowed things to continue unidentified. So those buildings, as I'm sure you both know, where everyone knows, is the fire station and the high school. So with the high school, and I can go on, trust me, I have spent probably hundreds, if not more hours on all of these things. I wish I hadn't, I wish I didn't. But so with the high school, it had turned out that there's a building management system that kind of controls how the building operates. And that had been somehow turned off. And again, we were unable to identify that until very late 2024. Then I took on what's called a retro commissioning effort, where we hired an engineer to go in and, well, first of all, they were the ones who identified it, put everything back in order. It's a long slog, but everything has been back on track now for several months, so that's great. Unfortunately, it's like the largest account in the city, so it was a huge amount of money. And again, dollar for dollar, what did I say? It's like was that 96,000 over budget. And it's really unfortunate, because had we been correctly billed, we would have been able to identify it a lot sooner. I would like to point out that I'm the only energy director that in the whole of Massachusetts who deals with the bills. So that does help in terms of being able to identify things in real time. But it's also, not unusual for things to take, usually we're looking at things annually. But again, if things had been going as they had normally been going, we would have known this much sooner. So at least that's a check that we're on target and things have been moving really well, and we're working closely with the school department to make sure. And I check the bills every month to make sure we're still staying where we were historically. The second one is the fire station, and that's at $69,000 over budget. I rounded because it gets tedious to do everything to the penny. But so again, I want to highlight a few things. One is it was a brand new building. So when I'm budgeting for brand new buildings, I'm kind of like, what, kind of like a magic crystal ball. But I had an energy model. I used that and add in a little bit, 10% overage as a cushion. That was what was budgeted. So, and that may have been, a little lower than we can maybe expect given all the things that have come to light. But again, we didn't get an accurate bill at all from the time the fire station was occupied until very late in 2024. And there were, we all knew that there were still items that needed to be finished up. They call it a punch list. And then that has been, an ongoing effort. And there's just a tremendous amount of dedication from the fire station and the energy department. And again, we have undertaken what's called a measurement and verification scope. Am I being too boring? Now I'm the one who's being.
No.
Okay.
Riveting, don't worry.
Okay. So what the measurement and verification scope does is it makes sure the building is operated as it was designed and as it was intended. These buildings they're amazing, and there's a lot of moving parts. It's not just four walls and doors and windows. So when the building is operating as intended, it will use a lot less energy than what we would call a code standard bill, or it is to code, but than some of our other existing buildings that are older. So this measurement and verification scope combined with it's just been kind of a perfect storm of issues that have and again, I'm finding that this is not necessarily atypical, that once projects are done, that everybody leaves town and they go to the next project from the project team. So, we've been getting everybody to the table. We have commitments from everyone. People have been really plugging away. Peter, obviously, he's been great. I know he's sitting right there. I don't know if he can see me, but so he's been very helpful in like identifying what's going on in the building so that we can work it through. A lot of things have been identified and reconciled. More things still need to be accomplished. And again, we have a great person who's working with us, who's really taken on coordinating with all the project team members, which I guess that's where herding cats comes from. It's no fun at all, but we are doing our best, and it's just a lengthier process because there is a lot of moving parts, and but we do expect that bill, we're already seeing some positives, and that should get us a bill that will be much closer to what was originally budgeted. Yay, I still
Great.
I have a question.
Yes.
So how did the system at the high school get turned off?
That's a question that I believe that there had been some personnel changes, and
Okay,
yeah,
so it was human error, in other words.
yeah, we call it operator error, I guess.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Thank you.
So do we feel like, are the current employees that maintain the system, do we feel like they're trained now on this system so
I
that this
would
won't
say-
happen again?
I that's definitely a priority to, and again, I'm going to qualify it by saying that these systems are not, it's not just like a on and off. They are very involved, so training is key, and the oversight is key. So I think that we have some room for improvement there, and I know that that's something I've been in discussions with the mayor. It is underway, and that again, there's so many projects we can do to like reduce energy, but first we have to reduce what we're using now to the best of our ability. And that's like the lowest cost way to do that, is to make sure all of our buildings are being operated optimally. So I would say it's definitely a priority that, again, I've been in touch with many of my colleagues. This is, again, not, I would say not unusual that there's, so we've been working on how best to accomplish that. And maybe we have like a quarterly checkup by the companies that operate, that the software, what do you call them? The people that are the owners, you know what I mean? Like it's Siemens, the company that it's their system,
Yeah.
Having them come in and check things. That's how we did it with the high school and identified it to begin with. So I would say, we're on all of this stuff, and it's definitely, it highlights the need for, we need to be in collaborative contact and work together.
Yeah, I guess what frustrates me more is the fire station, having been on the council and approved all those appropriations. We were told it was going to be an energy efficient building, and as was the high school. And so I think there's an expectation that you would at least be close, not you personally. You have saved this town so much, you've helped the environment from the amount of work you've done, so I'm really appreciative. But from the public and from our standpoint, it seemed like somebody screwed up.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's the designer, the builder, a combination of both. And I don't know, I'm just worried that I hear there are some solutions, maybe it won't be solved. And it's frustrating from our perspective because I feel like it's the taxpayer that's going to end up paying that difference. So, do you think that we're ever going to get close to having an efficient building? Or is it going to rank, where is it going to rank in our buildings? in terms of efficiency.
Well, can I just say that I keep in track. One of the best ways to do what I do is to see what's working and what's already been done. And I was on the building committee for the fire station. Trust me when I say frustrating, I understand from the community standpoint, but also personally, like I hate, that I want to see everything work the way it's supposed to. So I guess the best way I can put it is I have kept in touch. There are several other fire stations that are all brand new, built within maybe 2 to 3 years of ours, that were built using the same exact design measures and energy systems and protocols, all fire stations. So there's it's a very unique usage, and they are all, or we're seeing that they're operating the way that they were intended. So I fully expect that we're going to get this fire station to where it was intended. And again, I'm going to say that based on what we found, it might be more, but it's not going to be, it's still going to be like, okay, yeah, I don't want to get too technical, but I think initially we were expecting an EUI, which is the energy use intensity. It looks at the square foot energy intensity of the building. The building you're sitting in right now is roughly, it has been a 37. And that's amazing. Anything under 40 is 40 was our target. We've beat that now on several of our buildings. The fire station, we know what, it's a 24/7 operation. So again, like maybe we need to push it up. Maybe it's 40 because of that. But we should well be able to get to that target. And so it is, I can't tell you how much effort has gone in to getting this all under control. And it is something that involves several people. I mean, I personally have, it's not my place, I guess, to, I don't know. I think there's a lot of things that just kind of contributed and nothing maybe intentionally, but here we are with things that still need to be finished this far down the road. And if it's any consolation, the engineer who's working with us says he's working on another project that's worse, which kind of, I don't know, made me feel a little better, but it doesn't mean we're going to let our foot off. And we're, again, it's been the fire station, I know more than anything, we want them to be in the building that they have been waiting for, and it can do that. So it's, if
This is another one where, do we know what the initial budget line was for this one?
I think it was 42,500.
Okay, so I was just wondering like the percentage over we are, which,
Well, it was like 250%. It was,
yeah.
Yeah.
And then for the remaining issues that need to be completed before we can start to see a decrease other than the billing error, is there a timeline for those? Or are those still sort of, we're waiting for pieces and parts and,
Well, just today, we finally heard back from the heating contractor that there's, and I'm sorry, I am not up on, they are talking like in such details and minutia. I don't want to know, but that they're dealing with some of the things that have been kind of, that need to be addressed.
okay.
So that is good news that there's things. And again, we have some really good people that are coming to the table, which I would say that's probably like one of our biggest battles at this point in the game, to kind of be like, come on, you're not done yet. And so we're getting the response, and I wish it was easier more than anything, because it's not fun every day. But all I can say is, we're all committed to doing everything we can, and we have been.
And sorry, Carol, when you say you're dealing with like getting people to come to the table, this is just a question I have because we've had like with capital projects. So like that's you managing the fire station, like the remaining needs of the fire station. I'm just thinking because like I'm on the library building committee, and like there's a similar thing. I've just for the last 4 years been like, who project manages capital improvements
Correct.
across the board for the city, and
There
it
you
seems
go.
like it's department heads manage those on a, but when you have like these huge projects, it's difficult because you have a whole other job on top of a project management job for a huge project. So I just want to make sure I'm understanding that is that what you mean when you're saying like getting people to the table to like do all the things? It's because it's like managing that capital project.
All right.
Can
You,
I say something about that as well?
Yep.
We have an OPM. The OPM is the person that's supposed to be managing all the things that happen in the buildings. And truthfully, we haven't stopped those meetings yet because every issue is not finished, but it should not be on Carol or the Energy Department or the Fire Chief. The building was designed there, and we've all talked about this. There's OPMs on all of these projects. And it should be them who is managing this, not the department heads. We have not stopped meeting for the fire station because the issues are not resolved. And we reenacted the library building because we had two issues that weren't resolved there, the solar and the sign mostly.
Yeah.
So the OPM gets a lot of money for being project manager. And quite truthfully, it's been a little discouraging. Carol's pulled people together, and I'm quite proud of her for that. And the chief and the deputy chief, they've all been working as hard as they could, but that's who that falls on.
Thank you. If I may, can I add to that a little bit, please?
Mhm.
Yes, please.
So the thing that I agree with you 100%. So that's kind of why I'm like, all right, let's go. But so we are required by law to hire an owner's project manager. When we do a capital project that's over, I think it's $1 million, it might be 2 million now. Both the library and the fire station well exceeded that. So this is a requirement. The definition of an owner's project manager is that they are an advocate for the city. So the way I look at it is they are kind of an extension of an employee of the city.
Right.
And you're correct that we do not have a dedicated capital project manager in a city of this size. Larger cities like Cambridge have that.
Yeah.
It would behoove us with these two projects because of what has transpired. But the way I look at it is that those people should not be, that they should be acting on our behalf on everything that arises until everything is seen through to completion to our satisfaction.
Yep.
I will say that it's and the other thing that it's taken me a while to kind of define this, but the smart thing about how projects like this go is there's a lot of people involved. I mean, there's a whole world of project management. And again, we hired a general contractor. They do the kind of making sure everything gets built the way it was designed. I've been on both the library committee and the fire station committee from the outset. But there's a lot of people involved. Every single person has a completely black and white definition of their role with their responsibilities, with their accountabilities. But if you don't have someone kind of keeping on top of that, and that's kind of a role that the city's been playing, and it's really not, again, as you noted, it's a lot to add, especially when that's not necessarily my background. I've now done it a number of times, and the good news is the solar is finally done. Woo woo. And so I guess, unfortunately, in a way, we're not unfortunately, but just it's not very often that we undertake projects of this size.
Yeah.
And so I think we're getting, like I said, everybody to come and do their pieces, and it's great that it's all there's no question. Okay, this is yours, get it done. What's the holdup? When it's going to be finished. But And I feel like the more I speak, maybe I'm just digging, making, anyway, I hope
No.
that's helpful.
Yes, it was helpful. Does anyone else have any questions for Carol though regarding the energy budget? Okay, thank you for putting the narrative together and thank you for coming. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Okay. Parking department salaries, is that the new hire? Sorry, I sprung it on you.
Okay.
We switched topics so quickly.
Hmm.
You remember, Mayor?
I'm trying to remember. We just had Fran. We added a second person, but that was budgeted for.
That was,
Yeah,
part-time wages went a little bit over.
Okay.
maybe he worked more than whatever the wages were, but
Yeah.
that was for this year that we put another one on. So I can't tell you that right now. truthfully.
Okay. And then we have dispatch, which is in the expenses line and it's over 1,300, which these little ones I normally wouldn't really care about, but I am wondering if there's like, did we not budget last year for things like printing and whatever? And that's actually what we're going over in expenses for, because I think that's important for us to know.
Counselor Bullock, may I say something on that?
Yes, please.
Okay, so you look at that budget, the dispatch budget, and there was 57,000 left in the salary line and $1,364 over in expenses. Normally at the end of the year, you could move one from the other because that department was under budget. But yes, I cut everybody's expenses. I cut them that year and I cut them even more this year. I think I cut almost $1 million out of the requests. So that certainly could have been why that was over.
Where is the over, do you see the overages for? We have excess in the salaries.
Yep.
Page
57,000
two.
left in
Yeah.
salaries.
The left-hand column. Where it has, salaries,
Oh, there.
expenses, yeah. And it looks
Oh,
like,
yeah,
Over about
okay.
57.
yeah, it looks like, clothing went over by about 424 and training went over by about 900 on that one.
And that covers the 1,300.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, and then we have fire department. Welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome
Wants
to
to do-
join us at the table here. Yeah.
For those that don't know me, I'm Bob Strand. I'm the Fire Chief and Emergency Management Director for City of Greenfield. This is Deputy Chief Peter MacGyver. And we are here to answer some questions. I did give a memo. This was a unique budget season for us. We clearly have identified some things going forward to alleviate some of the problems that we had within this budget. I'm happy to go into details. I will tell you there is one item that stands out the most, and I'll give a little story behind it. In January 15th was the date that I submitted my operating budget in 2025. In April 18th or something like that, we settled a contract that had a lot of stipulations within the contract. Normally, we go back after capital stabilization to offset that cost. We did not. We tried to see if we could take that and absorb that within our budget. So the firefighters ended up getting a percentage increase in their salary which was in roughly around $30,000 impact to the overall operating budget. And then there's some other items that I'll go into that are not salary related that cause some overages. For example, our uniform allowance, you'll see that it's over substantial. Most of that is contractual. They got increases in their clothing allowance. We never did put a package together to go back after stabilization money for that. But that's one of the overages that we have. So I'm happy to go and answer questions. I did send a letter. There was, I think, a host of issues that went with this budget. But the one key thing I want to take away from this, or for you all to take away, is I take a lot of pride in putting together my budget and trying to live within the means of my budget. Clearly, we had an issue this year. And at the end of the day, no matter what the circumstances or what's behind it, I am the fire chief responsible for the department budget and take responsibility for it.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
Yes. On the expenses, the 87,000, is that includes the 69,000 for the energy?
Energy will not show up in my budget.
No.
Okay,
energy's-
so that's separate.
That's, yeah,
On top of this.
yeah.
Okay.
The energy department budget is the energy expenses for the building.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I will tell you that there is a couple line items that historically are where they are. And they historically are not funded. And that has been years of that. One of them is vehicle maintenance. The rule of thumb that we use with budgeting maintenance for fire fleets is we take about 10% of the overall value of your fleet, and that's what you should be spending on maintenance for that fleet. That's just a rough rule of thumb that we do in the fire world. For us, that's probably around $60,000. We're budgeted for much less than that, but historically have spent about what we've been spending right along.
So you're spending that 10% even though you're not budgeting.
We're not even close to that 10%. We're well under. And our DPW does a fabulous job. And if it wasn't for our DPW, the cost of maintenance, whether it's police cars or fire trucks, would be 3 times the amount of what we're paying now. We pay for parts and materials, and they provide labor. Okay. But a simple fire truck that has PM, a preventative maintenance, and oil change like you would in your car, just the oil and fluids in one truck is around $500 to $600.
Oh, God.
Just to put it in perspective on how expensive it is to maintain these state-of-the-art big pieces of equipment. We should see a slight reduction in this because now that the ladder is new and some of our trucks are new, we should start seeing that reduce a little bit. But at the end of the day, there's ongoing maintenance that's required of these trucks, and a lot of the costs we can't get away from. So there's that one. The other one is fuel. Historically, price of fuel goes up and down. We're anywhere between $2,200 and $2,500 a month for fuel. We try to instill on best practices with the fire trucks. So for example, in summertime, if they're out on a call, or if they're out on an event, we tell them simple things like, guys, try to shut the trucks down. Wintertime, we have to keep them running. We got to keep the heat on. We've got to keep the repeaters on in the truck. But we are cognizant of that. We are cognizant of when we have training that's out of town, we have a department policy that says you'll take the most cost fuel efficient vehicle that you can. Sometimes that's a challenge to do, but we try to be very cognizant of the fuel use that we have. At the end of the day, we're using between $2,200 and $2,500 of fuel every month. So that historically has gone over. Overtime. Our overtime, as our staff increases, our overtime should go down. The problem is that our staff, for whatever reason, for the last 2 or 3 years, we can't catch a break. And what I mean by that is this job is a very dangerous job, and people get hurt, and people get long-term injuries. Those long-term injuries kill us because our model is based off of 7 firefighters on a shift. Okay? The way that it works is that during non-vacation season, one person off on a shift, it doesn't create a vacancy. It's not until 2 people are off on the shift. So during normal times, that's not a big issue because you'll have one off on vacation. And then if somebody is out sick, you'll still have the minimum of 5 on duty. On vacation season, which is 3 months of the year, we budget about 35,000 in overtime because we know that up to 2 can be out on vacation. That means if somebody has family medical leave, if they have an injury or whatever, then that's what's going to create the overtime. What compounds that is when you have an entire shift out on different reasons, family medical leave or injuries. Injuries is the big one. Sickness.
Mm-hmm.
We have a catastrophic sickness in our department right now that we pray for every day. But those vacancies within the department really hurt us, which drives the overtime costs up. At the end of the day, there's a minimum of 5 firefighters, which is not enough for this city, but it's what we have. 5 firefighters on duty all the time. 3 people on an engine company, 2 people on a second piece, which is usually our ambulance, which is our heaviest used piece of equipment that we have. So that's why overtime is historically over. And again, we've had 1 or 2 years in my 15 years as fire chief that we've been under, and the rest of the time it's been over. And we try to get creative and we try to cut and add and whatnot. Add certain categories that make more sense, take away other ones. We're at bare bones when it comes to the overtime. I have a very detailed report on the overtime that spells out that over 92% of the overtime spent is on shift fills, maintaining that critical staffing level. The remainder of that, for the most part, is emergency recall, where if we have an incident, we need to cover the firehouse. So for example, Saturday night, we had a horrific car accident on Barneston Road. One party was entrapped in the car. They had to use the jaws of life to get out. We had multiple patients, multiple ambulances. We were tied up there for an hour. We have to initiate recall at that time, which means that we're trying to get 3 firefighters recalled to the firehouse to cover while we're tied up at that incident.
Mm-hmm.
About 400 hours a year are used for that type of recall. The other recall we have is structure fire. It's all hands on deck. Everybody needs to come in. Big storms, and then our mutual aid. When we go out of town, we have to cover our firehouse.
That was a question I had about mutual aid. So when we provide mutual aid to other cities, we are potentially calling in folks on our overtime.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay.
Every time.
And the other question I had is, so is the overtime budget in the salary line or is that
In the salary section, yes.
Okay, so how far over were you on overtime? Because it couldn't have been.
About 30,000.
Okay,
Remember, I said we had some staffing challenges?
yeah,
We had an increase in our line item, our budgeted for salaries, but because we had so many people that left,
oh, that's what.
you're
okay.
showing, we actually show that we're positive in
Right,
that.
okay,
So we made some assumptions on that in
Yeah.
regards to the rest of the salary line
Yeah,
item,
yeah.
because we knew we had a little bit to do there, but
okay, that is really helpful because this is always like,
yep,
right, it's like the number, but it's the context of the data that matters, so.
it's really challenging. One of the items within salaries that we went over, there's vacation buyback down there. When a firefighter leaves, or in this case, this firefighter was out for more than a year, because he was out for his vacation season, they buy back the city buy back his vacation because he's unable to use it. That's what that line item is. We never fund that. It's never, since I've been chief, funded. And yet it has the biggest negative impact to the department budget. For this year alone, one of my firefighters, we're looking at, over $40,000 worth of buyback.
But that one, and maybe you
There-
remember budget talks last year when, or maybe the mayor remembers, like, when there was questions about vacation buybacks not being funded, I thought that we were told that that's something we would like later, it would be funded later as departments need it, because it was just unanticipated.
Yeah, so there is a separate account that it gets charged to, but to my
Okay.
knowledge, it's not always funded enough.
Okay.
Counselor Bullock,
Yeah.
that's a compensated absences and no, you can't budget that into your budget. You have to budget the regular salaries that you have there. So that's why we have the compensated absences fund, which this year I think many departments took a big hit
Okay.
on.
Thank you. Max, did you have a question?
Yeah, I have two separate questions. So I'm new here. My name's Max. I don't know how your budgets work, and I was just wondering, like, is the way that you have it set up for the like 5 minimum and the 7 on, and then having the overtime, is that how it's just generally done for fire stations, or is that because we're short staffed or?
So at the beginning of our budget process, we go in and we do an analysis of what the actual cost is going to be for not only the salaries, we anticipate what the salary increases are, and we build it all within the budget. The overtime is really, we're pretty good about estimating what the overtime's gonna be. And we try to do better than that on the overtime. But there are some years like last year, like this year, where we just have so many folks that are out that there's just no way to plan for.
Totally, yeah.
You know, we had an incident at a structure fire where a roof collapsed and trapped 2 of my firefighters. One of the firefighters was injured for several months, was out on work. There's no way to predict that, if you will. What we can predict, what we absolutely can predict is like vacation season. I can tell you it's going to cost about $35,000 a month to pay for folks that are out if there's multiple people out on. Like we can estimate that, but a lot of times with the overtime, and I hate to say it this way, as much as we try to pinpoint and we go dollar for dollar and a lot of times it's a shot in the dark. It's best guess.
Yeah.
That we.
But
I mean, we do figures around it, so I don't want you to think we don't plan for it, but you know, I mean, we also base it off historic data. You know, it cost us this much last year. If they get a 2 or 3% raise, add that much to it, and we try to predict it that way. But still, it's still at the end of the day.
So for like vacation season, and like this is where I know nothing at all, but like, is there a different way to do that so there's not as much overtime coming out of that?
No. It's a great question. Glad you answered it. So it used to be that the firefighters could have 2 members off year round, and that would have a huge impact. Part of the negotiation process that you go through, there's a lot of give and take, right? And one of the things, you know, like you may have given some raises this year, but you got some concessions back. One of the concessions we got, either this contract or the last contract, I think it was the last contract, we went from year round to having 2 off to now it's only 3 months that they can have 2 off. If I had a year round, we would see a lot more overtime. That's a give and take in the negotiating table.
Gotcha.
And to be honest with you, with 7 people on a shift, if we only allowed 1 off during vacation season, there'd be many firefighters that wouldn't get a vacation.
Totally, yeah.
Right.
Sorry, I have one last question.
Yeah, I was.
You have one in the waiting room.
I am wondering about, I'm just going off of like, my neighbor needs the ambulance at least once a week. And there are no less than 3 vehicles that show up every week for this one person.
Yeah, so it depends on the what we call the acuity of the call. Okay, so and it also depends on who the primary ambulance provider is. So our standard response for high acuity calls, which means life-threatening calls, the standard response is a city first response agency, which happens to be the fire department. The fire department used to send an engine company with that, but now that we operate an ambulance, our first response call is our ambulance. It's staffed with 2 EMTs. The primary ambulance company will also respond at the medic level. Our folks will go and stabilize and help transport the patient to the ambulance and then clear and go back to normal duty. And the private ambulance company will transport.
Gotcha.
Okay. That is pretty standard practice anywhere you go. Instead of a fire truck, we're taking an ambulance. We have an ambulance because if we get to that scene and that provider is unavailable, then we do the transport. The caveat to that is if it's a high acuity call, which means it's something that requires what we call ALS, advanced life support. We transport at the BLS, basically paramedics. We'll get on scene and we'll start doing an analysis on the call on the patient. And if it's determined that they need ALS, then you could have South County come in with a paramedic or Northfield come in with a paramedic. Sometimes it's quicker for us to get them to the hospital. Sometimes it's not. We had an incident today where we had an elderly person that fell. We were the primary ambulance, but they needed pain management. We could pick that patient up, put them on the cot, and bring them to the hospital in tremendous amount of agony, or we can wait an extra 5 minutes, wait for the medics to get there, give some medication, and make the ride a little bit better for that patient.
Yeah.
One last scenario, when it's a cardiac arrest or a high acuity call, we also you'll see a ton of emergency responders there, from police, fire. It's really all hands on deck. And we often get, people often ask us questions about why so many responders on that. And I use the analogy of if you've ever watched ER or any of the TV shows where somebody has a cardiac arrest and they do a code blue, I can tell you in the real world, it's the same thing where everybody floods to that room where the person is you have respiratory therapists, you have cardiologists, you've got doctors, you've got nurses, you've got 10 or 12 people in the small room. We do that out in the field. Everything that's happening in the ER, we're doing it in a bathroom. We're doing it in a living room. So not only do we have the patient to care for, but we also have to clear a path to the stretcher. We help, and it's all hands on deck. So a typical call like that, it's not uncommon to see 10 or 12 responders on that from all agencies. But I'm telling you, all hands are on deck working on that. When we're performing CPR, high quality CPR, if you're doing it right, compression should be swapped out in less than 2 minutes. I mean, somebody fresh needs to get in there because it's exhausting work to do it correctly. And we're finding that these new approaches that we're training our firefighters and learning, we're having some pretty tremendous success. Our ambulance responded on a male party that was in full cardiac arrest. ALS wasn't available. High quality CPR was performed. We used a defibrillator, got ALS started, and within a week and a half, he was back home with his family. So we are seeing good results from that, but it takes a huge team to be able to make that happen.
Did you have a question, Patty? No, me, no.
I have a question on another funding source that you guys I know have taken more from. I think in recent years, the ambulance revolving fund, which usually has a pretty hefty balance. So I'm just wondering if that's something, I know you budget stuff.
Yeah.
But can you use stuff at the end of the year to help correct that? Or do you have restrictions on that account? I should know that, but.
So we do a budget. We do a budget that's separate from our operating budget. That's strictly for the ambulance. Some of the miscommunications, if you will, the mayor caught it last year about this time, that we weren't charging appropriate things to the ambulance account. She suggested that we do a transfer of funds at that time because we were starting to show a deficit. I actually said we should do it at the end so we don't have to go twice. Well, the follow-up at the end didn't occur, so that didn't happen. So the answer is yes. Like I said, our mayor caught that last year. She was correct in saying we should do it then. Like I said, I thought it would make more sense at the end of the year, but it just didn't happen at the end of the year. So yes, some of the money should have come out of the ambulance revenue account. Strictly when it comes to operation of the ambulance, which our biggest component of that is some of our salaries have been taken off of the operating budget and have been put into the ambulance. That's the biggest amount of money we spent out of that account.
Okay. Did you have another one?
This is a general comment. When departments have overages, like is there a process? Like, do departments come to the finance office or the mayor and say, hey, we're trending really over? Like, is there, I don't know if there's a set time where people just notice it and if there's any process.
Usually at the end of towards the end of the year. People
Okay.
have a good sense of where they're gonna be. And a lot of times they'll take requests of the mayor saying, okay, we have a little bit over, can we do this, that, the other thing?
Because I mean, it's been a while, but sometimes there are appropriations that come to us.
Yeah.
So we really take a holistic approach to it. And I've written reports, there's been a couple that have come to city council
Yeah.
around January saying, hey, just to give you a heads up, we've got a problem coming our way. I've been grateful and happy that some of those times it didn't happen that way. It was a lot less. But we try to put on notice. There will be some documentation coming for this fiscal year.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
I have one more question. I'm sorry. I know. We actually did two of the things in the discussion already. So I was like, we're going to be here till 10 o'clock, but you did say the minimum of 5 and it's not enough. And I've been following a little bit of the Amherst Fire Department saga at the moment based on the fire that happened there, I don't know, a month or two ago. And I know we've had some pretty big incidents this year that have required many, many hours of all hands on deck. And so I just have this question of long range planning. And I think I thought this at some point last year or the year before, where I just feel like we're talking about overtime every year because you can't say, oh, we're going to have a slow emergency year, right? We're not having any emergencies in 2026. Okay. And so
Be happy.
yeah, slow down, guys. And so I did start making a big deal about everything. So I wonder, there's just this long range planner in my brain because I do project management where I'm actually, and I wonder this about the police department too, where I've been what is the number that where we save money over multiple years in upping staffing? Because yes, we now have to pay for health insurance and pension and all of these things as the contract increases come through. But over a 10-year period, are we actually going to save money if we hire one more person because we're not spending X amount of dollars in overtime every year because we can staff at a higher level and not be I know that's a math equation that I don't want to figure out, and I like math, but do you know? Well, there's so many, I'm sorry. Questions. Do you know the answer to that question? But there's also are we at a staffing level that is appropriate for the capacity of our city to be safe in terms of response and you must have language for this in your field, but the acuity of urgency that you see in the field?
Great question. I will tell you there's multiple ways to judge that. The first way to judge that is you can use standards. There are NFPA standards out there. That is the industry standards of what you should be having for fires and medical calls and stuff. I will tell you a medical call, a cardiac arrest that I told you about. They suggest a minimum of 6 personnel on scene within minutes of that medical call. For a structure fire, a single family home, which, most of our town is, for a structure fire, the minimum recommendation is 11 firefighters on the initial alarm.
Which we don't ever have that on staff.
We have 5.
We never have. Okay.
You could during the day, right? Because we do have a lot of administrative work. We have the deputy, you have myself, and we have a fire prevention officer that all he does is inspections, and he could use another body himself just to do that. But when emergency comes in, it's all hands on deck. Everything else gets put on the wayside in the emergency. And then we have a full-time admin captain that does, you name it, the leftover stuff that the deputy chief and I can't get to, he gets to. And I could use 2 more of him. So during the daytime, you could have more people,
Okay.
up to 10, 11. Very rare, right? Most of our fires happen at night. We're at meetings, we're doing other things. So that's what the standards are. We had a strategic study that was done in 2005, back before we ran the ambulance, and they recommended a minimum of 8 firefighters on a shift. That's working. That's not a minimum on shifts, right? There's 2 differences, right? There's what you staff and then what you'll drop down to a minimum. That's 2005 language. When we were doing 1,200 calls. We are currently in the neighborhood of just shy of 4,000.
Wow. Okay.
It's a huge increase and a huge demand on the fire department. In addition to that, you take the workload that the firefighters have just to maintain what we have. DPW does a good job of maintaining our trucks, but the small stuff we take care of in-house. We shovel our sidewalks. We do most of our janitorial work. We take care of our own equipment, our small engine like saws and stuff. We do all the servicing on that. So there's a lot of work. They're tremendously busy all the time. But if you ask me, Bob Strand, what the immediate goal should be, I will tell you, and it's not what the standards say, but I would tell you that my vision is to have 7 firefighters on a shift all the time. And in order to get there, you would need 10 firefighters on a shift. I also know that we are in competition, and I don't mean this to say this in a bad or negative light, but it's the reality. The schools need money. The DPW needs money. Town hall needs money. The police department needs money, and we are a poor community. And so we try to take every dollar that is given to the fire department and use it efficiently. But at the end of the day, our staffing levels are getting concerning.
Yeah.
The car accident that I told you about the other night, we would call firefighters to fill our firehouse. Turner's Falls recalls firefighters to fill their firehouses. There's volunteers around us. They rely on volunteers. There's simply not firefighters anymore. They're just not. And so that car accident we had the other night, we were unable to fill a company to our station. We called our mutual aid partner to see if they could come in and help us. They were unable to fill. That's 30,000 people that they didn't have, roughly 27,000 people that we had coverage, because if we had to split the engine off of the accident that we were at, we would find a way to make it work, because that's what we do.
Mhm.
But at some point, it's going to get alarming.
Yeah.
And I'm not an alarmist.
Yeah.
I've never sat in front of city council and said this before. But there is going to be a point where it's challenging.
Yeah.
We-
I think I just saw I saw and was close to the situation that happened in Amherst, and just, thought this could have been
Yeah.
even more devastating in
Yeah.
terms of human life. So,
Our good news is we have a robust mutual aid system.
yeah.
And I get questioned about that a lot, because yes, we cover our firehouse when we go mutual aid. There's about 80 times a year we go out of town mutual aid. There's about 60 times with structure fires and other emergencies, not ambulance related, where we have companies come in. When we have mutual aid come in, it's not a single engine company. We strike 2 alarms on a fire. We have 6 mutual aid companies. That means 6 pieces of equipment, whether a ladder truck or 5 engines or whatever, compared to the 1 we send when we go mutual aid. So although the number is less for us, number wise and incident wise, for mutual aid coming in, we actually get a lot more mutual aid coming in than we give out.
We had 2 questions, Patty.
Yeah, so I understand that you have a more realistic view of things than this standard. I negotiated for nurses for 14 years, so I understand staffing.
Mhm.
And we're talking life and death.
Yeah.
Okay, so in terms of health and safety for both firefighters and the community, what you're saying is that you should have 10 firefighters on per shift? That would be the goal. I mean, in a realist, forget everything else for a minute.
Yeah.
Just say for a realistic situation in terms of keeping, because you've got a lot of injuries. And I know some of those injuries could have some relationship to how many people you have on staff.
Mhm.
Sickness as well. There's a relationship there. So if we could reduce that and keep everybody on vacation when they can be on vacation because everyone needs them.
Yeah.
And safe safe on the job and our community safe, that would be a more realistic goal. I'm not trying to get you in trouble here.
Yeah.
I'm just asking the question.
Listen, the staffing we have right now is what the community can afford.
Yeah.
And we recognize that.
Yeah.
And we will do everything that we can within our power to make sure that you have the best. I'm not saying that there's a dire situation that you're not going to get emergency responders. The fire department isn't going to be there. I'm just saying, I was asked the question.
Right.
And I need to answer,
Truthfully.
are we going to get there? Not in the next few fiscal years.
Yeah.
Like, there's like.
But we should be cognizant of
Yep.
that. That's the important thing. We need to be cognizant of
That is, and I am cognizant of that, the fact that we are fully staffed right now to the standards that we have and we've had. I mean, this last budget season, working with the mayor, is the first time in a decade we've been fully staffed. And I use the quotation because although on paper we are fully staffed, I'm down the equivalent of almost a shift with injuries.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the key for us is to really get the injuries back and we'll be in good shape.
Okay.
Bigger picture, I was asked the question, I'm going to answer it truthfully. It's this community really should have a force that's a little bit larger than it is now. And it's very hard for me to say that, but it doesn't take away the fact that it is true.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Max, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was wondering, you mentioned that the person who does the building inspections could use extra help. Like, has there been a look at, like, if you had that extra person, does that help preventative measures for structural fires?
So we've made some adjustments. We've added, within the last 3 years, we added a 20-hour-a-week part-time clerical person, which has freed that position up to be able to concentrate more on less office time and more field time. That has been a home run. And that is probably one of the best investments we made into the Fire Prevention Bureau. I couldn't use somebody full-time in that position because there's just a vast amount of work that goes along with that. But we've already made strides to try to do that. The other captain that's on, the administrative captain, he probably spends a great deal of his time taking the overflow from the fire prevention officer. So for example, every bar or restaurant that sells liquor has to have an annual inspection. The lead inspector wasn't able to keep up with that. That other captain ended up handling all that. And he does a lot of fire prevention work. So we have him tasked with multiple functions.
If you were to fund a full-time position, would that, do you think, decrease the amount of emergencies?
I don't. What it would do is it would make a more robust fire prevention office. But the priority is to put
More people out
put
there.
people on the trucks.
Yeah,
It's always been the priority.
totally.
We went without a deputy chief for many, many years until I made a commitment that said we were going to restore our normal staffing before we would talk about a deputy chief. And with last year was the first year we actually got it back. So, which is unbelievable.
You mentioned the 1,200 calls in 2005 versus now 4,000 to 5,000.
Mhm.
Do you have a sense of why it's gone up so much?
I do. You would think, naturally, we took on a whole brand new service, right? We were not in the ambulance business. we've taken on that responsibility. We've also are the designated first responder agency within the city. So depending on the acuity of the call, you get a fire apparatus, whether it's an ambulance or a fire truck, if you're having a medical. We are seeing an aging population. We are seeing more needs for ambulance, so that has had a big contributing factor. And then our fire calls are up too. Structure fires are pretty stabilized, but we have what we call in the industry smells and bells calls. As systems get more sophisticated, we get more fire alarms and CO detection, and then we are kind of the collect all in the emergency services field. We are called when people don't know who to call. We get on occasion an elderly person that has a broken pipe in her or his house and doesn't know how to shut it off. We get called and we go, and what might not seem like an emergency to everybody else is an emergency to who it's happening for. So we get called for all kinds of things. So that's why the call volume goes up.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you, learned a lot.
Thank you so much.
Bells and bells.
Yeah.
At one point you said like in the fire world, which was, oh, you guys live in the fire world. No, thank you. Yeah.
Sometimes it feels that way.
Yeah, you're living in the fire world. It's true.
It's challenging to provide the state of the art fire protection service that the city has come to expect, and it's not without the guidance of our administration and putting funding forward, and the city council for supporting the fire department year after year when we've come forward, and the bottom line, the taxpayers. And I will tell everybody that's listening, we do take very, very good care and try to watch every dollar that is spent within the fire department, because at the end of the day, it's not the fire department's money, it's taxpayers'
Yeah.
money, and we are cognizant of that. We may not always agree, and people may not always agree with us what the best method of that, but we always put the taxpayer first.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a couple other high up ones here. We have, I think we should definitely let's hit building inspector. That was 11,000. DPW, which is that? I think that was on the agenda. And then I'm just gonna see if there's anything else big here.
Short-term.
Oh, yeah, short-term interest for sure.
Health insurance too. Yeah.
Health insurance. And then at some point we have to get to schools too, which is separate. Including school. Yes, Mayor?
In inspections, we lost a long time employee in the clerical union. There's a lot to know in that role, and we have a new person there, Hope Smart, who's replacing Vicky, who is really pretty irreplaceable. And one of the reasons for that overage there is so that the new person could train. We had two on for a little bit.
Oh, okay. So that's building inspections, you said?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, great. So then let's go to DPW Service Division 127.
May I again take that one?
Sure.
Service on all vehicles is way over. I think the service division of the DPW is the auto and truck repairs. And the cost of auto repairs, almost everybody was over, fire department was over, police department was over. And just the cost of the materials with tariffs, et cetera, it's gone up enormously.
Okay.
So even though I love cutting budgets, not really. But I will have to be more less stringent on those lines because it is not working. Doing it in-house saves so much money, but you can see 127,000 over, it's unbelievable. But police and fire as well on their vehicles was over.
Okay. And that's for service division, that's like, what's the 127? Is those
It's
parts and materials?
vehicle maintenance services and vehicle parts.
Yeah, okay.
And that's separate from theirs.
That's separate from theirs. Yes, they
Do you know
have
what they were budgeted?
for DPW.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, the vehicle maintenance services was budgeted at 20 and they spent 87. And vehicle parts was budgeted at 106 and they spent 183.
Wow.
So, yeah, they do a miraculous job keeping stuff on the road.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
They've kept things going way, way past their expected life.
Mhm.
Well, and just, I will say I know personally from my own stuff, like the tariff increases have been significant and
Yes.
anything that you're, you know. Yeah, it's a real thing for parts coming over
And
50% tariffs on some things.
and for snow and ice, vehicle maintenance was budgeted at 20 and they spent 59 on that. So add that to the mix there.
Okay. And the short-term interest was the other
Yes.
big, what's happening here?
Okay, so there's two areas of this budget where that kind of stymie me, and the debt service as well as the health insurance are the two big ones. There were areas that were not budgeted in 2025 for interest. I don't know why. Again, that was the prior treasurer as well as finance folks. So we were short about 134,000 for that short-term interest. We will rectify that going forward. I believe that is still an issue for the 26 budget, but for 27, it will be rectified. And then employee health insurance, they managed to fix that towards the end for about a difference of about 42,000. However, that was under budgeted by about 300,000 to begin with. So that spread was made up during the course of the year. Let me pull up my health insurance here. The net. Yeah, the net of, there were some positives in that account for health insurance, but the net negative was 177,890. And at one time it was under budget by about 300,000. That's why FY26 saw that big increase for health insurance. That was to make up for that under budget situation there. And with health insurance and with debt, we're trying to reduce the amount of debt because Greenfield as a city that doesn't have a lot of tax base, we have a lot of debt comparatively to other places. So we want to see as much debt roll off in the next coming years in order to bring that down to a more manageable level. I do believe that our Moody's rating will go down, as well as many other cities and towns in the area because, there's just not enough money to go around. And luckily interest rates are coming down, so the net impact won't be that great. And interest rates will probably go down even further. depending on what happens with the government. And so the impact won't be that great, but we still need a concerted effort to pay down our debt, get to a more manageable level, because between debt and health insurance, that's a good chunk of the budget right there. That could be going way towards other things. Firemen, policemen, ambulances, things like that do a lot of people a lot of good. So
Well, a question I had on that, because I was looking some older statistics, and at least 2024, we spent $5.2 million on debt service a year. I mean, that's more than, I don't know what the entire fire department budget is, but I mean, when you put it in that context, it's stunning. Like that, it's a lot, and it's gone from 3.5 to 4.2 to 5.2. I don't know what it is this year or next year, but I mean, it's staggering.
we kind of reached a level, and it's going to start to come
Climbing
down
again.
because we've taken a few years off. We're paying down the credit card, I guess. That's the best way to put
I
it.
think
Yeah.
people need to know it, because
Mhm.
that really eats a ton out of our operating budget.
Yes.
What's our bond rating right now?
Our bond rating is AA minus, and we would go to a AA plus, which you would think is better, but it's not. So.
Right?
No, it is not.
Yeah.
It'll be a combination of our debt picture, our projected revenues for the year. We always pay our bills, so that's not an issue. And then just a lot of it has to do with the general level of the economy, and they expect the economy to get worse, so people aren't going to buy new cars, so excise taxes will go down. People aren't going to move their houses, that type of stuff. So.
Okay, is there anything else on this summary of accounts and negative balances that we want to, that people have questions on or that want to be discussed? I did skip over a few of the smaller pots. Definitely, if anyone has questions, you can feel free to email me and the finance director, and we can get answers and share those. Or if the public has questions about the ones that are remaining, please send an email. Okay, so we have left to discuss 2025 operating budget, including schools. And current balances for stabilization account.
Yep.
Let's do schools first.
Okay, so let me get my schools out.
Page 24 for those.
Yeah, schools have a giant 47 pages of budget here. So unfortunately, I was well versed in the school budget, but have not been for several years. So, I don't know what happens on line to line, like why did we spend less in North Parish teachers versus why did we spend too much in, Federal Street or somewhere like that. But overall, you'll see the total budget for the schools basically come out to a surplus of $3,000. So all the money brought in was spent for the schools. There are areas where I know they have some staffing, finding enough people to do the jobs. So there are some significant plus balances for finding people. So there's kind of a lapse salary. So when there's a vacancy, that salary builds up and they're unable to spend it. But then it was then offset through costs going up, special ed costs going up, special needs, adding some paraprofessionals for the individual level for students in need who need one-to-one type aids. They are quite costly. We'll see a increase in the need for nursing services for individual students. There are some students that require a full-time nurse with them all school day. And the costs for special ed placements, there are some placements that will cost around $270,000 a year for one student. Transportation has gone up. And, you know, it's a never ending cycle with the schools where you try to do more with less.
So if we're at just a 3,000 surplus for the budget for
Mhm.
2025, but we saw level service? But are we gonna see a deficit for, is that realistic, or that we're gonna see a deficit for 2026 or overages like we're?
I think there's enough play within the overages, especially with the lap salary areas.
Okay.
In schools where they cannot find enough folks.
Okay.
I'm on the
Um,
school committee. If I could say something about that,
Yeah,
we're under budget in every salary line, I think, except the high school in this fiscal year 26.
okay.
Loads of paras positions that couldn't be filled, but every single school is under budget on salaries because they are unable to find staff.
Any school budget questions 2025? And when we get into budget season, just for newer folks, the school budget is like different than all the other budgets, just for fun. So we can potentially have like a little, I'm not going to pretend to understand it all either, because I learn stuff every year about it that I thought I understood or didn't ever understand. So we can potentially go over, that as we get into budget season, like how it's a little bit different than the rest of the budgets. Okay, any more schools? Mayor, is there anything else regarding 2025 school budget you want to add?
No.
Okay. What do we have left here? We did schools. We retained earnings for water, sewer, and Greenfield Community Energy and Technology enterprise accounts for fiscal year 24 and 25, page 71.
So these are a little bit difficult to understand, especially when you look at revenue when it comes out as a negative. So I guess it's a negative expense. It's the best way to look at it. So I can give you what the end of the year balances were for each. Sewer was 177,107. Water was 973,191, and GSET was 47,171 for those three. They're doing a pretty good job working within their enterprise budgets, especially given the vast amount of service water and sewer provide for the town. And the DOR has informed us that they believe that those balances are fairly tight and want us to go up on fees for both sewer over the next couple years. So we are working with DOR as well as the Water and Sewer Department to address that.
Question. So in terms of the water and sewer rates, in terms of comparable size city in Massachusetts, are we about the same, or has there been any comparison?
I don't know of any comparison
Okay.
off the top of my head, but I'd ask Paul, and I can find that out for you.
Great, thank you.
I know that.
Okay,
Wonderful.
We're lower. Our rates are lower than any other of the nearby cities. We did comps. And if we were like $5 for whatever, or $4, other municipalities were $5. but we can give you the exact number. Somebody did it for me.
And was it last year that we saw a water sewer increase or the year before in rate?
Well, we actually will need to do an increase every year. And the Department of Revenue said they actually were not going to set our tax rate unless we made it on the enterprise fund. So we've been worrying about that. At least I was worrying about that all year long, if we were going to make it on water and sewer. And this year, I'm petrified as well because the health insurance cost, health and retirement has gone up so much. I mean, when we say so much, it's like retirement went up $500,000 and our health insurance is up $1 million. That's what we can go up per year with Prop 2.5. So it's very worrisome. Now the enterprise funds are different because we will have to go up again. You have to notify everybody 6 months in advance. So in June or July, we'll have to tell whoever it is that we're going to go up the following January, because with the aging infrastructure that we have, you'll see water main breaks, et cetera, et cetera. We have to have the resources there. They're constantly called out for water main breaks.
Yeah. Yeah. Huge thank you for the, we had a nice little Russell Street. We were calling it jump for the last couple of weeks in the neighborhood, but it's gone now. I was really surprised nobody plowed right through it with the car every morning when I was driving. Like, did someone plow through that last night? But the DPW, you guys fixed it, so thank you. Any other questions regarding water sewer? Okay, we have page 77, current balances of all stabilization accounts for fiscal year 25.
So when we look at stabilization.
Can you talk about what stabilization is for the city for a second? Just,
Sure.
yeah.
So the statute allows for the city to put money away in kind of a savings account. So any excess of any overage, you can put the money into the savings account, and then the city council can then appropriate it as needed. So there is a couple stabilizations, the capital stabilization fund, in case, a giant hole develops in the middle of Main Street and we need money to go fix that, or a fire truck breaks down and we need money to go fix that. So that's the capital. Then there's some other stabilizations for salary negotiations or salaries that we generally will put money into, and that's to go pay people who leave, who get sick buyback, things like that. So essentially it's a savings account with the city council saying, we will determine when you can use that and if you can dip into that savings account.
Thank you.
And so our stabilization accounts are okay. I wouldn't say that they're overflowing by any stretch of the imagination, but they have a balances where they're able to absorb some things. For example, the general stabilization account has $1.6 million in it. So that would go to help. Our capital stabilization has about $800,000 in it. Then our contract stabilization has about $154,000 in it. Then there's a bunch of small little ones like building maintenance with $7,900. This one was established quite a while ago, but really nothing ever became of it. These special ed stabilization fund has $1,600 in it. OPEB stabilization has 12,000 in it.
It's risk compensated absences. Because that was one that we put some money into before that's really helpful because it keeps the departments from having to absorb that. It's useful if we can put money in there, because we had problems in the past. Just looking for that.
Should be here somewhere. If I didn't put it in there, I can get that to you.
That's okay. It's just one of those that it's kind of an unusual sounding one, but it's actually really useful for
What's it called?
compensated absences. And it also means if someone retires, I believe, that will do some of those.
Yeah, it's like retire, it's a vacation buyback, it's sick leave. So like when you've had a long-term employee that's built up and then like they retire, if they have like $40,000 in a payout due to them based on their like PTO.
Yeah.
And historically, for my time here, the conversation has been like there's been times where a department budget doesn't include that, with the knowledge that department may come and ask for money out of compensated absences at some point during the year to fund those overages. Okay, so our stabilization is okay. Is there any other questions regarding stabilization accounts? You just asked them. Like, this is your guy, and we have him right here, and so.
Some of them sound like why have a capital stabilization and a general stabilization and a central stabilization?
It's statute. So the statute says you could have these and these can be used for specific things. Yeah.
Okay, got it. I just would think that the capital stabilization fund would be for more like capital projects, but it seems like it's being used for just fixing stuff, so.
Emergencies.
Yeah, right.
The mayor has it.
And
Go ahead, Mayor.
So mostly to answer your question, mostly we have used it for capital projects. And so there's two big ones, the stabilization one, which we normally never take anything out of. We did this year, but we're going to put it back as soon as free cash gets certified. And the capital stabilization, yes, sometimes we use it for fixing things, but you'll see this year in April, probably, that we will be voting on all of the capital projects. I have so many more requests from every department than we can possibly fill. And we are trying desperately not to borrow any more money because the bond rating, we feel like the bond rate is probably going to go down. We have, I think, $56 million of outstanding debt that we have not yet converted to that we haven't bonded for. It's temporary. So that's going to cost as well. Those are for both buildings and a whole lot of other things. So we're trying not to use anything for all of the trucks and repairs of culverts and sidewalks and roads. We will be searching every couch cushion and to see if there's anything left from any past project to see if we can use that for the capital projects. The stabilization is just there. The regular stabilization is just there for an emergency. And the capital stabilization, I kept putting money in that. That's how we bought the fire engine. That's how we bought almost everything that we did last year. And now, depending on what the free cash gets certified at, that's going to let everybody know what we're going to have and what we're not going to have. The fire department has 4 things. The defibrillators are up at the top. That's one that we're actually going to have to do that. Some of the defibrillators will have to be done. Maybe not all that's on the list, but it's really tough.
Does this include like where like the transfer station floor, like that's coming out of the capital stabilization fund?
I believe, yeah, that's what we funded because that was like an emergency funding need.
Okay.
The chief had.
So just
a little historical perspective on that. When Irene hit the community back in 2011,
Yeah.
there was $14 million of damages to the city departments in infrastructure. 13 to $14 million. Now, the city was able to recoup 75% of that. But they had to have a lot of money to make the immediate repairs. That's why stabilization, from an emergency management standpoint, just to give you a perspective of what we've used stabilization funds for in the past. You
Well,
never
well-
know when that stuff like that could happen.
What worries me, like with making these budgets like this for 2027 and moving forward, is that what the city recouped was federal funds, correct? That passed to the state,
75%.
75%.
Still on the hook for
Or 25. But if we have another catastrophic flood and
FEMA doesn't exist.
FEMA doesn't exist, we're relying on federal funding to pay for 75%. That's like, we don't even have the couch cushions aren't gonna make up for that. And so,
It didn't back in the green either.
Right.
It took 11 years to get fully whole from the federal government.
Yeah.
for-
okay, interesting.
So that just went into debt that we had.
That's a financial, I'm telling you from an emergency management.
That was before my time.
Like that's the stuff you gotta keep in mind when the mayor and Stephen are putting forward things for stabilization. It's the stuff you don't know
Right,
that's coming.
right, when COVID hits.
Thank you
when-
for sharing that. The history is so important because the hazard mitigation is predicting flooding and more severe weather events coming, hurricanes. So
Cold weather,
yeah, that's all.
extreme cold weather, we're looking at it.
Like
We're
tonight.
looking at this weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, even,
Minus 35 degrees with the wind chill this weekend. That's cold.
Oh, my God.
Not going up. Stay home.
Yeah.
But outside of the catastrophes that could happen, all of our delegation is calling this a perfect storm, what we're having right now, because every single city and town is suffering with the health insurance costs that are up.
yeah,
So you take that, we're up $2 million in the past 2 years in health insurance costs. I don't know how anybody can do a budget with that. That would mean that you had to leave every other department perfectly flat.
We don't need single payer, do we, folks?
Yeah, we do.
well,
Yes, we do.
any other questions regarding, sorry. The agenda here. Any other questions? Let's see, I think we did everything. We did municipal buildings, Board of Overage and salaries from fire department. Okay. One thing, just because it was mentioned, the cold weather, I do just want people to know that the warming shelter has been activated first Monday, Tuesday. So it is open tonight. And then, yeah,
We're over budget on that, aren't we?
I don't know. We didn't ask that question
But I mean, we've been open more days or we're.
than planned for.
Yeah. So where does that come?
We received money from the state. It was from EOHLC, I believe, and I could be wrong on that. But we were the leaders in that last year, so we got a special grant for that. And that is also being funded this year. We have about enough for 20 nights. And we're going to be over 20 pretty soon.
I put that on for next month's agenda. We can ask for a report on that.
Thank you.
Okay, and this says that the next meeting is February 17th, but I just want people to know that it's not.
Surprise.
Surprise! We made a decision in chairs this month to move February's city council meeting to the 25th of February instead of the 18th. And so I am also going to move Ways and Means to the 24th of February, so it'll be like the same cadence of the day before the city council meeting. But so Tammy's listening to us, I'm sure right now. So if she could just make that edit that we are having our next Ways and Means meeting will be the 24th. And we will confirm and have it posted on the city website that this room is available that evening. I did just look, there's nothing posted for that evening. But it should be the 24th at 6 p.m. unless I'm going to send out an email just to make sure that that 6 p.m. works for folks. Sometimes 6:30 is a better start time depending on people's work schedules. And I do have a desire for us to not have Ways and Means the night before council so that if there's like lingering questions that we need to get answers on, we have like a couple days to get them before the council meeting. There is times over the last couple of years that like questions come up in Ways and Means and then they can't be answered in 24 hours or can't get to an agenda with a 5-day rule in time. So I'll send out through Kathy and Tammy and Quinn like a poll to see if there's other dates that work instead of it being the day before council meeting. I think that makes sense. Just there's been a number of times that happened that like information can't get to the full council. It makes sense like we should think about that.
That makes sense.
Okay, so our next meeting is February 24th at 6 p.m. And I would take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.